riding along in my automobile, my baby beside me at the wheel. I stole a kiss at the turn of a mile, my curiosity running wild, cruising and playing the radio with no particular place to go.
Chuck Berry was one of the founding fathers of rock and roll. He combined elements of blues and country into a new style, and he was particularly known for his incorporation of guitar solos, and unusually wrote most of his own songs. His first hit was Maybelline in 1955, and he continued to have a string of hits until the beginning of the 60s. After a short spell in jail, he returned, but his popularity faded somewhat. He had become a nostalgia act. However, in 1972, he had his only number one single with My Ding-a-Ling. He was from St. Louis, Missouri. He died in 2017. He recorded 20 studio albums in his lifetime. More than half of those were in the 60s. And the last one was recorded before his death, released after. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the seventh studio album by Chuck Berry, and it's my first time hearing it. And this was recorded after he had spent 20 months in jail, during which time some of his songs from pre-jail times, presumably, had been covered by the Beach Boys, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and several other people. So Liverpool here is obviously a reference to the Beatles that were kind of the British explosion has happened, or British invasion, that was the word. So Liverpool is in there in the title. St. Louis is his own hometown, so you can kind of see where this title comes from. So I would fairly confidently describe most of this as being rock and roll, with some blues thrown in. And it includes a couple of instrumentals, and I would say one of those is more blues, one of those is more rock and roll. Where the dividing line is between those two things, I think is a fairly soft line, but there are songs on here that I would strongly say that's definitely more of a blues song than a rock and roll song, and vice versa. So I'm going to pick out a few songs here. So Little Marie, which is the first track on the album, I thought was a version of Memphis, Tennessee. Actually, it's a sequel to Memphis, Tennessee. It's very, very similar structure and sounds very like it. And I enjoyed it. No Particular Place to Go is a classic. I really like that track. You Never Can Tell as another track that I know and I like. Go Bobby Soxer is one that I didn't know, but I felt like I recognised it a lot because it's very strongly based on Johnny B. Good. Very strongly based on Johnny B. Good, but that's one of his own tracks, so, he's allowed to do that. In general, this definitely taps in subject matter into teen romance stuff, and apparently the whole thing was designed to be aimed at a younger audience than some of his previous albums, taking in the fact that the British explosion, I want to say again, a British invasion was very much about kind of teen audiences. For me, Chuck Berry is starting to stand out amongst rock and rollers. So on this channel, I've reviewed one of his other albums before. I've reviewed, I think, another of his albums previously when I used to review on a blog. I can't remember the details of which one that is. And I'm starting to kind of, when Chuck Berry was coming up and I saw his name coming on this list, I was thinking, yeah, all right, I'm up for this. I'm enjoying exploring Chuck Berry, and I'm starting to gain a decent respect for him as a crafter of pop. I like the fact that predominantly the stuff that he does is his own stuff. I like the fact that he has the role of his guitar in this is stronger than it would be in a lot of rock and roll, and his playing is good, is strong. I know he's known for it, so this is what you'd imagine, but it's iconic guitar work, which is another way of saying it's the tropes that you might expect, but this may be the point where those tropes are being created. I'm not sure. I mean, certainly around this sort of time anyway, maybe a bit earlier. So I would say it's unusual for rock and roll at this point in time to have such a focus on the main person being a musician as well as a singer. And I like that. And I like that he's a songwriter. I've said that already. So overall, I enjoyed this quite a bit. Having said that, I felt that a few of the songs felt a bit filler. I feel particularly that you get to about the third quarter of the album is just a little bit. I just needed some more to push in there. And to be honest, I felt like, particularly the first of the two instrumentals, felt like that to me. It felt like I didn't really understand why it was there on the album, although it is somewhat different to the other tracks. So maybe it's there to round out the experience. Fair enough. As always, I'd love to know what you think of this album, so please do share that by leaving me a comment in the comments down below. That's what that box is for. If you've never used it before, be brave, be strong, write a comment. I read all comments, except for I have to have a caveat. There's a comment that I can't see in one of my recent videos. I only assume that it's been blocked because somebody has said something rude in some way. So I'm kind of curious. I wish I knew what it was, but yeah. So if occasionally there's comments that I don't respond to, then I mean I'll respond to most comments. I try and kick off conversation. Um, so give me a try. Um, so the next review on this channel, I am going to be stepping off this Acclaimed music list and doing one that I just want to do, which is going to be of the album The Oslo Gospel Choir Live. But that's it from me for now.
Bobby Van rocking and a Bobby